Hello, Amy. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate it. And you see, Amy, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Amy, for investing in yourself. See, you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. See, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it, and I went my way. But just recently, I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes, I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely moment that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Amy that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, how you're offering your solution. These stuffs are amazing. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Amy's doing. Not only me now, but even the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Amy. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm really honored to be here, and any opportunity I get and we get together with the intention of healing, which all connection can heal. Our connection just in this short time, you've already offered me some healing by recognizing, by being with me, and I hope to honor you as well through our shared connection today.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today, Amy, for two reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Amy, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, Amy, ever since I realized that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Amy on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, Amy, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Amy, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Amy got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Amy, over to you.
Yeah. So, I guess really my personal journey impacts my professional one significantly. Um, I grew up in a family. I'm the youngest of 10 children, and there are significant traumas and struggles within my family of origin. And I was definitely impacted by those. And um, yeah, and it, I think, led me between those struggles and then the heart of service that my mom lived with really led me into a place of service. Um, and in that, I noticed that I needed some healing as well. And so one of the things, if it's okay with you, I'd like to focus on today is compassion, because that is my focus on compassion completely changed how I live in the world. And so, one of my sisters that I grew up very close to developed a mental illness, and I found myself just feeling really burdened by it and um, felt angry about it. I had a lot of emotions that that didn't hold compassion very well. And it really was the result of all of the things happening in our family and how I was able to receive those and not really deal with them or process them. And I had a very good friend who passed away a few years ago, who maybe 15 years ago brought me the idea of, instead of New Year's resolutions, we would choose a word to focus on for the year. And and we did this at the beginning of the year, and then with that word we would read things about the word and talk about it and listen to podcasts and just really explore the essence of what we chose. And that first year, though, the word I chose was compassion. And my intention with that really was to develop compassion for the struggle my sister was experiencing. So I was reading books and incorporating some new practices. And one of the things that I noticed is that the compassion really enveloped me first, my being able to have some compassion for myself. And opening that place really created some vulnerability for me that I was able to share with people. But it really became, I chose it for the second year. I didn't change my word in the next year when we sat down because of the impact. And so looking at that impact and how I was able to bring compassion to myself and then to others very authentically really shifted how I live in the world, how I parent, how I show up for friends and coworkers. And it very much led me to um, name my counseling practice Rooted Compassion. And so it's been a beautiful journey, really, of looking at how does compassion live in us and with us. How do we root into that? How do we really find grounding in that compassion? And then how do we begin to share that with others and help them develop that sense of compassion? And boy, do I really hope for the spread of compassion for the whole world more than anything, especially with all of the unrest we're seeing. I just hold for the compassion for all involved.
Amazing. Hey, may you just impacted me with your words. And I tell you, I love the fact that, like, when you mention that the second year you still chose the same word because of how it impacted you. That's a great word. And you see, I also realized that when we have people filled with compassion, there will be less evil, less hatred, and all of this chaos that is going around. And the part you also mentioned that you wish compassion can spread across the world. I tell you, I also desire the same thing. But there's this part I'm curious about. You mentioned how you got into, you started counseling. So why and how did you get into counseling? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually was a massage therapist for 20 years and loved that job. I taught continuing education classes. I traveled to do that, and I had a strong base of clients, but I kept feeling this pull to something else. And that really coincided with my learning about something called the Polyvagal Theory, which is a theory developed by Stephen Porges, which talks about how our nervous system responds to the world and the people in it, not only in the face of physical danger or safety, but also in the face of emotional safety or lack thereof. And so part of what we help people do in counseling, and again, this was a big reason I moved to counseling, was just the realization that it's not that one is better than the other. The physical healing is important, and spiritual healing can certainly come from body work. But I knew I wanted to share the information about the polyvagal theory. It very much coincided with my efforts around compassion and my developing compassion. And what the polyvagal theory does is really helps us understand what messages our body is sending us about our emotions. So if we think about how we know when we're afraid, say, we recognize usually the fear through our body symptoms, right? Oh, when my heart beats faster when I'm afraid, or there's a grab in my stomach or my shoulders. And those are all really messages from our nervous system that says something doesn't quite feel right here. And so we help people. So I have 8 other therapists that work with me now at the practice I started. And we're really looking at helping people understand what some of those messages are that come from the body and to be able to respond to them with compassion, with intention, with love, so that we can, for ourselves and then through the connection with others, really help to heal individuals and relationships.
Beautiful. I got that. Okay, so what are some simple ways people can start using PVT?
Yeah. So, one of the ways is to start to notice what those messages are. So we tend to get pretty overwhelmed with our emotions when they get big. And so I say to people that feelings and body sensations are sort of like toddlers. You know, when a toddler wants a parent's attention, they might say, Dad, 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 Daddy, right? They escalate in their communication to try to get our attention. And our body sensations and our emotions do the same thing. So we might feel a slight grab and we're like, oh, it's fine. I'll keep going. Just ignore it. And then we get to the place where that emotion or that need or that message is kind of screaming at us. And of course it feels overwhelming then. So we like to help people start to notice the smaller signs of discomfort. And then we can interact with that sign. So if I feel a little bit of, even coming on here today, when I thought, oh boy, I've never met him. I'm not sure how this is going to be. And so I did some intentional breathing to help my system calm. And so when you asked for tips, breathing is definitely a tip that helps us modulate the activity of our vagus nerve. So you can, I tell people all the time, you've been successfully breathing all of your life. We're not in breathing boot camp, but we do want to start to bring attention to our breath, to notice it, to maybe just spend some time with ourselves, with our breath. And then there are different patterns of breathing that can either accelerate our breath or slow our breath down. And that breath is also modulating our heart rate variability. So when our heart rate is lower, it's really hard for us to have a lot of big emotional feelings or upsets. And then when our heart rate picks up, it actually brings more energy into our body. And that's because there are times where we need to have that energy to take care of things. So breathing is one thing. Humming is another way to really help regulate and modulate the vagus nerve reactions. So, I love it because it can be done anywhere, anytime. Um, Another thing we notice that impacts the vagus nerve is cold water. So the simplest way to do this is to maybe splash cold water on our face, and and you can also cold plunge. You can get into cold water, which is something I very much love to do. But that process helps kind of stimulate the vagus nerve pretty quickly. And then as we warm, it slows things down and we get a rush of dopamine, which is that feel good emotion that helps us regulate as well. Connection, safe connection to another. So when my husband and I might be disagreeing, I look for his eyes to share some nice eye contact and vulnerability with him, and that brings a sense of safety to me, which will help calm again the nervous system.
Beautiful. So let us look at just one more. So how does it help parenting? I mean, how does puberty helps parenting? Got it?
Yeah. Gosh, it's such a good question, and I could talk for days about this, but I won't. So I think my parenting was the first thing that changed when I learned polyvagal theory. And I'll just give the example of my daughter and I. So when she hit her teenage years, um, I was actually hitting menopause, she was hitting puberty. And in those times when our hormones are in such a flux, we can react in ways that maybe we don't want to. So I started to notice that when she was pushing back against me, which is developmentally appropriate for teenagers, I would find myself getting upset. My tone of voice would change. And the tone that we hear really impacts how our nervous system responds. And so uh, she would do the same thing to me. It was like we were both doing this to each other. And a few minutes after one of us would raise our voice or use that tone, we would come back and say, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't want to do it. I just felt like I couldn't." And so we went through this process of um, we decided that our word would be tone. So if I said something to her that she received with a difficult tone, she would say tone, and I would do the same. And it took a little bit to figure that out because at first I'd be like, I'm not having a tone. And then I'm like, oh gosh. So we decided that the listener got to decide if there was a tone or not. And then through that, because we were so dedicated to developing a good relationship, we started to receive from each other that information and then down regulate our nervous system so that we could communicate better. So for me in parenting, step number one is I need to learn about my nervous system and the behaviors that are coming from it when I get upset, when I get activated in my nervous system. I want to take care of that and slow it down. And then no matter what age my kids are, it's good for me to understand their nervous system state and be able to develop connection first and then deal with whatever the situation is. So we like to say connect before discipline, connect before a conversation about the difficult thing that happened. So at any age. And then, of course, how do we connect? How does this individual connect? How do I do it? How do they do it? And being willing to adjust those behaviors and responses as the leader in this relationship, because that's what parents are, right? They're the adult in the
Beautiful,
relationship.
beautiful. I got that. Okay, so Amy, to bring this to an end, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about your programs, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Yeah. I think one practice that's been really impactful for me is to use a phrase I learned from my mentor, Deb Dana, that says, just like me, this person. So, just as an example, yesterday I was in the car. I felt like the person ahead of me wasn't driving in the way they should. I was being very impatient. And I just sat back in the car and I said to myself, just like me, that driver wants to get where they're going safely. Just like me, that person wants to be on time. Just like me, that person has loved ones. Maybe they're going to see them. And it just helped me to come down. So I would like to suggest that as we get into those places of struggle or irritation, we might find some connection with others by using that statement, just like me, this person is. And it allows me to rest in
Beautiful,
compassion
beautiful.
by doing that. And then, right, you asked about connection. Yeah, we're our website is rootedcompassion.com. So ROOTED compassion.com. And while we primarily see clients in the state of Ohio in the United States, we actually offer trainings all over the world. We're working on one in Turkey right now that will deliver via telehealth, but we do and are happy to help people wherever they are and whatever help they need.
Beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, Amy. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's good to be here.